So, you're talking about that just mentioned what the church can understand. Well, if we look at nation transformation seriously, the first thing we understand is that the church, by and large, has already failed. In our quest for self-righteousness, we have neglected the stewardship of the world. We're so busy trying to be holy by ourselves, we lost control. The world's gotten itself into a mess. Well, speaking of big guns, I think I owe Sean some congratulations for successfully transitioning from a committee-based church to an apostolic structure. Congratulations on that front. Oh, you can resume your conversation. It's all right. You are already well aware of how much trouble we're in. You wouldn't be doing what you were doing if you weren't already aware. So you can go ahead. But as for the rest of us who don't quite get it, what I wanted to talk today was, well, basically I just wanted to update us on the 50-year plan. Last year I mentioned that. It's someone give me my PowerPoint, please. I don't have a clicker. No? Okay, they don't have it. Check the email. The LRC sermon email. Thank you. Yeah, it seems I sent it to them and no one realized it was meant to be used. So yes, I was given charge, asked to pastor a church that's supposed to be on the forefront of development, and we were praying for it, and out of the blue on the Wednesday prayer meeting comes these images. I spoke about it last year, about where we should start on the 7 mountains, and it's not at A. No, we like to say 7 mountains is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, E, F, G, and I think by and large we've been trying to start at A. That's a fatal mistake. Starting at A is a fatal mistake. We tried it, we died. The reason for that is because B was in the way. You see, we are already a church. We are actually at C. And the nearest mountains to C is B and D. We couldn't get the arts because money was a problem, frankly speaking. Until we took business, trying to mess around with arts was tough. But that was then. We made our mistakes. So now, the map I had was basically, superimposed that on the map of Israel. Look at the way Joshua went upon crossing the Jordan. He basically went in a straight line. Go straight, wipe out everything in your way, take everything, until every Israelite has a home and then stop. So we take that as our guideline, okay? We just go straight. And that we start from Mountain C, which is church. The image that I had was the nearest mountains to church were actually business and media, D, dissemination of information. These are the most accessible areas we can get into. There is no big hurdles about getting into YouTube or starting a blog. Media is very, very accessible. We never actually got into it. We kept thinking, I don't know what we were thinking. We weren't thinking. We were just trying to be holy, right? And being holy, according to our past generations, means that we don't touch entertainment. Stay away from the cinemas. It's devilish. It's demonic. You see that ugly picture there, the horror movie? Oh, that's demonic. Kids, don't go anywhere near cinema. Don't touch video games. They're violent. They're demonic. Our past generations has generally told us that in order to be holy, we have to abandon worldly, secular pleasures, right? And therefore, since we have neglected any attention what we call the entertainment industry, we've pretty much given them license to ruin themselves. And my big argument in my entire thesis about writing to influence for God, the point is basically this. What if we had employed these very things we abandoned? What if instead of coming out against this thing called movie, instead of calling it demonic, instead of being so holy that we can't touch it, what if we had instead employed it, taken over it, bought over it, directed the script? It would be a whole different world today. Well, but we didn't, of course. We were happily playing church. And we messed up. Where is my PowerPoint? Anyone got it yet? Yep. So anyway, going into, when I consider the 50-year plan, okay, how do I reach this? Oh, there was another image. An image of what Malaysia could look like in 50 years. And that one was what haunted me. Yeah, because I wanted that. I really wanted to get Malaysia to that image. And so the question became how. In so considering, I made a few presumptions. Firstly, where we are, what we are. And I'm not thinking about family, although I think I should. But until now, we've been describing this church as a different sort of ship. You know, we describe some churches a restaurant ship, some churches a hospital ship. And that's a very, very familiar analogy. But yes, Dad likes to call it an aircraft carrier. I'm not so sure. I think our church is modular. It's capable of switching things in and out and changing the very nature of what it does based on the needs. Let me give you an example. The apostolic is no longer our objective. It is not our mission anymore. It has become our equipment. See? Yeah, keep going. Yeah. So among these 4 pictures, guess which one is us? That's right. The first one's a battleship. It's not an aircraft carrier. Okay, a battleship just has cannons. We're not that. What we are is a ship that goes where no one has gone before. That's us. Yeah, that's totally us. Now, I know some of you find this familiar. I mean, we are considered an aircraft carrier, right? Now, this is because our equipment is suitable for it. Next. Who's doing this? If Grace is here, I can't call Grace anymore. Okay. So, right now, equipment is suited for aircraft carrier. And I know a lot of you find it familiar because I spoke on this last week. Right, last week, the latest sermon we had was basically this. That in this coming season, to remember who we were, to get connected, to explore. It might be a bit too late to explore now that multiplication has begun. If you have not added, it might be a bit too late. But it's no accident that I use this for exploration. Because this is where we are. Lettering is habitually, unapologetically, and inevitably always going to new things. We can't avoid it. Some of the other presumptions I had is that in order to transform a nation, we need to stand on the global stage. We can't play local. We can't compete with Pak Ali down the street. For example, if we wanted to move into arts, traditional wisdom would say we start at the bottom. We start with a few garage bands going to find gigs around town to play in a bar or something. That's how you start, to go into arts, right? You start music at the very bottom and you climb your way up the ladder. That's not going to succeed in 50 years. 500 years maybe, not 50. If you want to get there in 50 years, we got to compete globally. You got to go into arts to compete with Hollywood, with Disney, not with Bollywood. That's not going to be enough. And even Bollywood is beyond the local scheme. So, thirdly, competing on a global level does not require large numbers, just large effectiveness. There is such a thing as networking. There's such a thing as getting things done without actually being there. There's such a thing as the gig economy. I'm not sure if you understand it, but it basically means that people can work wherever they are, far away from you, without actually having to step nearby. And yes, it does get a bit expensive, but never mind. And fourth, that we are using Isaiah 65 as a guideline. I can't find any other location in the Bible where we have a clear directive for nation transformation. And of course, if Isaiah 65 is a guideline, Elijah has already mentioned all these probable things, except maybe for number 5, which is my personal opinion. And 6. Again, not much needs to be said here. I think we all fully understand this already, right? It's been around for 3 years now, so we should know all this by now. The crisis management thing I'm not quite sure about, but that's just my personal opinion. So don't quote Elijah on that, don't quote Bible on that. That's just Vic being Vic, based on what I see down the line in the chapter. So anyway, back to the map. What we haven't said last year is the sequence of events. Right, we know we're going to go in a straight line. We know we want to take everything in between. I am not sure that G is actually the last one. It is the hardest one, fair enough, but I am not certain it's the last one, because if we approach it sooner, the rest is actually going to be easier. But as for the rest, the sequence I had in mind is this. Business is number 1, required to start, the nearest to the church. Getting the media, not very easy without business support. Without it, the most you can do is blog or YouTube, right? This is about the best you can get in terms of free media. If you want to start a TV station, you want to start a newscasting channel, you kind of need to pay for it. So, having business and media, we can go into arts. You're trying to go to arts without the funding for it, we had the same situation we had 4 years ago. We're going to go right back into the same mess. But if we had business and media supporting arts, what I had in mind basically was a Christian version of Glee, for example. We can start arts at the bottom and we could take 50 years just to reach a national level. But if we had the support of these other 2 mountains first before we even start, how many of us know what Glee is? Okay, all the young people have their hands up. It's a musical TV drama. And one thing I don't like about it was the way it promotes homosexuality and other, the things that you don't really want to promote as a church. And I think I can fault it to be a very, I think I blame it for causing this homosexuality rise in the US. People are suddenly so much more sympathetic towards the gay cause. And it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. Popular opinion has shifted that way, and I blame Glee for it, almost single-handedly. There are other movies, there are other series, but Glee grabbed the attention and the affection of the current young generation. Every millennial, almost anyone in the US, they know what it is, they've seen it, they've loved it. Who doesn't? It's music and dance, it's music TV all over the place. And it's very sympathetic towards gays. Now, what if, instead of saying this is evil, don't touch it, instead of, complaining about it all day, what if we were the ones who employed it? What if we told them that, well, let's have this similar concept. You know, you can have your song, your dance, you can have your high school story. But what if all these characters were actually Christians? What if their concerns in life had to do with balancing Bible against reality? What if we wrote the script? Would, at this point of time, gay marriage be legalized in America? Maybe not. It's possible. Well, it's too late to catch that ship. It's already sailed. But in terms of arts, I'm thinking we can actually do that. It's possible, given the funding, to create a musical drama, TV drama. It can be done. I don't think we have the people in church to do it. You know, we're not that much of actors. We're too honest to be that kind of actors. But we could hire them. No, we don't have to be that big a church. We just need to have that long a reach. Then there's education, which I have a lot to say about. God knows, Anna knows, I have a lot to say about education. Basically, our current school system is a failure. We are training people to be robots. And now that robots are actually here, we're going to lose jobs to them. Because what school does is train innocent people to become industrial workers, factory workers. And now that robots are coming, factory work is going to go out. We're going to go to the robots. So we need a kind of school to create innovators, not workers. So that's an entirely different approach. Anyway, the thing about family, the last one is, well, firstly, I need to qualify what I'm trying to say here. I'm not talking about family as a mountain. Your personal family is not a challenge. You don't fight your family. Some people say family is actually your resource. What I'm talking about is the quality of family life in society. How much of a family life you have, how strong it is, how good it is. So family is not actually that. Did somebody move the PowerPoint without me asking? Can you rewind it 6 pages? One more? Move forward one. Forward, not behind. Yeah. So how does church actually handle business? Now, we know a lot of churches who start businesses for the sake of supporting the church. That doesn't quite work out so much. Business for the sake of business. I think that's the way we should be going. That's the way it's supposed to have been going. And yet, how do we treat, let's say, businessmen's fellowship in church? Half the time it's a matter of asking for charity over and over again. The other half is a matter of trying to tell businessmen how to do business our way. The Bible way, you must do business our way. And it becomes a lecture club. I think we got to change that. We need a kind of kingdom club where the businessmen come together, discuss what to do about the economy of a nation, decide it, and then do it. Was that a bit too fast for you? Yes. Kingdom club or businessmen's fellowship, this is not a place where we lecture them how to do business. It should be a place where the businessmen and the pastors decide how the economy of a nation will go from here on out. How do we raise the city? Do we raise the city or do we destroy the city economically? Do we want to raise the technology level in Sarawak or do we want to raise it in Sabah first? Which one should we go for? Do we make KK really the best point in Sabah or should we go back to Sandakan? I think that's the kind of decisions that should be made in a businessman's fellowship in church. Not about what to eat, not about what to eat next week. Not about whether we should accept bribes as businessmen, but about how we, as a businessman in church, as Christian businessmen, should affect the economies of cities, states, nations. I have to admit, I'm very, very influenced by Alex Onkili. He's doing a lot in Sabah. And yet, I look at his work, and I have to admit, it's too slow. Sabah, Alex, the network of the PAN, they are going for every of the 7 mountains. They are moving to government. They are moving into raising economic status of the Anak Negeri. But it's slow. They are playing catch up. What we need is something to quantum leap 5 years ahead of the rest of Malaysia, 10 years ahead. Otherwise, 7 mountains is going to be playing catch up for the next 50, 60, 70, 200 years. No, we have to go ahead of them. We can't play catch up. Somehow, we got to go way ahead of them. Now, I have prayed about business. I am not a businessman, so I don't have 101 revelations on it. But 2 keywords did come to mind. It just came out of nowhere, and I don't know what to do with these 2 keywords. Not really. I couldn't put in all the pictures I wanted. It's part of my thesis. It's 26 pages, and I don't have time to put 26 pages into this right now. But it is about this. Firstly, it's in Malaysia. God knows why it's in Sarawak. I thought, why not Penang? Wouldn't it be so easy to do it in Penang? Everyone there is Chinese, they love it. But no, Sarawak, okay. Second thing, hydrogen economy. That's weird. Who wants a hydrogen car? We're all going electric cars. Only Toyota is going hydrogen. Fine, hydrogen economy, okay. Highly advanced tech, culture. Yes, I saw flying cars. No, it's not a daydream. The flying cars there, oddly enough, when you Google Israel and flying cars, you see that they actually have one, and it can actually fly. And they're the only one that actually looks like a car. There are other flying cars in the world, the Terrafugia, the Transition. These look like aeroplanes in disguise as cars. The only car that looks like a car that can actually fly is the Israeli one. And oddly enough, you can't find any information for it anywhere else. You can see the video on YouTube, you can see it flies, but there is nowhere to order it, nowhere to find out who made it, nowhere to find out any of these things. But yeah, flying cars. That's what it looks like. We know it's a green society. Some of these structures were built into hills. It looks like a hill itself. And there are few roads, so I'm assuming a lot of it is done by drone. I had this weird research season in which I had these crazy ideas. What if we had these airships? This is Lockheed Martin's airship, by the way. If we had these airships and we designed it to run on hydrogen power, and we put on the rooftop the hypersolar systems, which turns sunlight and water into hydrogen, you basically have a ship that creates its own fuel out of sunlight and water, and rainwater or seawater, either way. So that was my original idea, and I thought, well, if this was a transport airship, let's say I want to go to Australia and sleep the night there and arrive the next morning in an airship that doesn't have have loud engines. What if I were to pack my bags, go to the front porch of my house, get picked up by a drone, fly straight to the airship, forget the airport. You know what, we don't need airports. Airship is right overhead. I'll just walk into the drone, fly straight up. Drone will land in the airship, I'll just get off, sleep my way to Australia, and then take a drone back down straight to the Abby's house. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Well, it's possible. We actually have the technology today. That's the weird part. We actually do. But people are afraid of airships. People are terrified of airships because of one airship burning down over an airport, the Hindenburg. Very popular airship. Why? Because it burned down. So people are terrified of airships. No, most people don't even dare to try. It's more economic. It's about 1/10 the fuel usage of helicopters. So the shipping, the cost to run is a lot cheaper. Why don't people use it? Hindenburg. And yet you consider what happened to MH370. The dash rate is 100%, as far as we can tell. Hindenburg dash rate was, what, 1/3? 1/3 of people survive, 2/3 survive. Why are we so scared of that when our planes today are much more dangerous? I don't get it, but it's there. But anyway, that's all speculation. I'm not a business person. I'm not really sure how that might work. But let's say we do get business done. We do establish that much profitability. And this city does come about, and Malaysia does propel itself 20 years ahead of itself now. I think there's an advantage to trying to propel Sarawakians into green technology because they'll just skip the entire industrial age. Why go through coal and gas when you can just go straight into solar? I mean, they're used to living in the forest anyway. So how is it any more weird to get used to planting trees? To be used to an agrarian society, to be used with, to care for the land. Shouldn't be that much different. They don't grow up in concrete jungle cities. They grow up in a green jungle. Is it any strange? Is it really that strange to think they would be able to care for it the way the city people normally wouldn't? They'd be a lot more at home. But that's just speculation on my part. What do I know? I'm nobody. And you might say that nobody can do the impossible, but we're nobody. So 1.5 media. Assuming the business does get settled, assuming that we can do all this somehow. And that's a lot to assume. I mentioned that the most easily accessed is media because, it's free to go into YouTube, it's free to start blogging, and blogging has, by and large, become the most influential media today. It's not going to be there for tomorrow, but right now, today, blogging is the biggest influence. This thing can change the world. You don't believe me? Ask the environmentalists. That's all they do. They blog. How effective are they? Ask Obama. He was there in France. You know what happens in France. They're changing the world. How? Blogging. So right now, blogging is the biggest influence. We got VR coming up. We got an interactive internet coming up. So it may not be the most influential for long, but right now it is. Someone suggested, why not just buy a news portal? Just buy over CNN and take it from there. Well, there are risks. Every reporter has their bias. Every reporter has their own sets of prejudices and stuff. So that may not be the best idea. It is an idea. It is possible. I think it can be done, but I think we'd be a lot more at home if we were to raise our own writers. I'm thinking something like a Christian Writers Guild, for example. But the Christian Writers Guild, the one that was started by Jerry Jenkins, that thing shut down. Jerry was trying to make a profit out of it. Didn't quite work. He went circular. But I happen to come from a country where the young writers, specifically the Faces Young Writers, I've been in these meetings. I was a member of Faces for a while. This is a group of Christian writers in schools. I don't know about the professional leagues. I don't know about the reporters. But I do know that when I was growing up, the writers of several different schools in the Klang Valley came together for fun. And we were able to learn from each other. Now, if that kind of group became a Christian Writers Guild, a place where we're not just being lectured about how to write, but a place where we could actually find jobs, for example. I think we could have a whole different ballgame going. But again, that's more towards arts than media. So speaking about arts, I think I already mentioned about taking from the top, right? Yeah. So the whole Christian Glee thing, the whole Christian writers thing, using business for a startup and using media to support. I mean, one of the biggest problems about arts is it doesn't get publicized well enough. Publications is too expensive. To advertise yourself is costly. It's not going to be that costly if you have a publication company. Half the problem of writers these days is they can't get published. Actually, no. 90% of the problem of writers these days is we can't get published. The reason for that is because publishers want a quick payout. They don't want a 20-year payout. They want a 20-day payout. They want to put your books on the bookshelf today and get money in tomorrow. Because, I mean, books itself, you know, the popularity of books have already sunk that low, and it's only sinking lower. But if we had the publication company going, if we could decide who gets published, and if we could use that publication to market any arts program we've got, I think the arts department will have a leg up. That's a huge advantage right there. Now, you might notice I'm deliberately tagging mountain to mountain to mountain. That this is not a you go to that mountain, you go to that mountain, I'll go there mountain situation. These mountains they're linked. They are so linked. And I think that was the way it's supposed to be. To take different mountains by yourself, that's just asking for commandos. You're going to take them all. You got to use them all. And yes, there's education. I like to use Isaiah 65 as an example for education too. I think Elijah liked to say that the outcome is what matters, not the methods. So how we get there, not really important, as long as the outcome is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I think that can be applied to education too. The outcome is important. So these are the outcomes we want if we're going to use Isaiah 65 as an example. I grew up in a country where the students were little more than fee-paying bench warmers. We were taught to keep our heads down, to follow the crowd, and make sure you pay up on time. And then I grew up and I look around and I do research online, and I suddenly realized there's such a thing as forest kindergartens. There's such a thing as schools that, well, students are not bench warmers. Heck, there are no benches. Schools that actually care for their physical needs, not just to charge them for cafeteria food, but actually give them medical care. Who ever thought of that? Then there's emotional build-up. I'm not talking about counseling for the grief management situation. I'm talking about systems designed to actually build confidence, that they actually get to do things in teams, get appreciated for it, actually get tangible rewards for it. How many schools around the world focus on character building as an important part of the system, not as a classroom? Malaysia has moral studies as a class, which basically lectures us to be good kids, and basically, the Muslims are exempt from it. But I don't think that's the way what we meant. Lecturing people to be good is different from designing a system where confidence is actually built, collaboration is actually necessary. For example, let's say we give them a long-term project. Let's say there's no classrooms, there are just teams. And your project is building a fort. They got to learn everything from woodwork to wood types. Talk about talk about living skills. There you go. And you actually get tangible rewards. I mean, you don't just get an A on your paper. You actually get to play in the fort. That's something else altogether. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know where you're going to get the land for all those forts to be built up. But tangible rewards. Teams where you actually do the work. I mean, we go to school and we learn from books to fill up paper. I don't think that should be done. All you're doing is teaching people to fill up paper. You want someone to be able to innovate, teach them to innovate. Give them the materials, let them figure out what to do with it. I think that's more of a school than sitting in a classroom with books all day. Of course, I don't think that's what's really going to happen. I suspect what's really going to happen is you're going to have kids in front of computers programming robots. That's much more likely. Anyway. The opportunities thing should be here too. The problem with this is that it requires a lot more attention to individuals. We're talking homeschooling level. One teacher to 40 students, not going to happen. No way is going to be able to give everyone opportunities. Never. We have that in schools around Malaysia today, not going to work. The opportunity levels are totally different, completely different. The guys who sit in the front row has 90% of the opportunities. The second row has the other 10%. The rest of it, forget it. You get no opportunities. Oh, also, I think the key point is this one. The reward for your labor. Most of the time, the reward for homework today is not getting caned. That's not a good reward for labor. I know some people like to give candy and all that, and there goes the teeth, but that's at least a bit more tangible than saying your grade is A. For some reason, the Chinese have managed to make it tangible that an A on your paper is actually a great reward. I'm not sure how many other people can do that, but somehow the Chinese managed it. But is there another way to do it? That if they were to learn all these things, there would be a more tangible reward than just a grade on the paper? That if you were to learn robotics and program the robot, you actually get to bring the robot home? And then if you mess the robot programming, God bless you, you face Terminator. But tangible rewards. Something more than just a grade on a paper. So I'm thinking of a whole different system of education. I don't know, I had a recent argument with Mom about SEM. I said it's not a good idea to give credits based on the hours of lectures they attend. That's like judging a nation's economy by GDP, All you do is measure how much they spend. You never actually measure how much they have. You want to measure how much they actually learn. You either got to give them, see their performance, which means a real life project, or you got to give them homework until they get everything right. They can do it in 2 hours, they can do it in 20 years. But until they get everything right, they're not getting the credits. Do it over and over again until you go consistently get all the answers correct. That way you know that they have learned their stuff. Of course, you take 20 years, that's a little bit more than we can bear. But at least you're sure they actually learn. Whether they spend 10 hours learning, 20 hours learning, that's up to them. So I'm talking about a whole different system. Hours spent does not indicate productivity, does not indicate success. It just measures hours spent. On that note, rewarding people for the hours they work is like training them to spend more time on their work. It lowers efficiency, not increases it. That's the gig economy. So yeah, I think I mentioned all this already. We can skip this part. So this might seem odd, but family is like the last thing I wanted to mention because it's like the end goal. All of this, you might say it's been geared towards affecting family life. And by that, I'm not talking about asking them to be nicer family members. I'm talking about changing everybody's life overnight. Changing the level of their income, changing the friends they meet in school, changing the very school they go to, changing the shows they watch. The entire family life can be changed at that point. If you've ever reached number 3, we've gone through 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. We've gotten all these mountains settled. And some new family comes to church, and they are impoverished. The father's got no job, kids go to school and got bullied, grades are sinking, mother's watching soap operas all day and crying her head off. That family comes to our church. In that case, if we reach that point, we can A, give the father a job, B, change the shows the mother watches, C, change the schools the kids go to, end bullying forever. Their lives will change overnight. That's the kind of effect on family life I'm hoping we can reach one day. Not just platitudes, not just God bless you, I'll pray for you tomorrow. No. I want to change their entire life tonight. Tomorrow morning you wake up, your job is different. You don't even need to live here in this house anymore. You can go take a loan for a better house. Income levels change, school friends you make change, life change overnight. That's what I want to see the church can do. So I don't know if I'll live to see it. I don't know how long it'll take. I don't know if I'll be around in 5 years, much less 50. But I do know the vision is there. And I do know it can be done. Worse, it can be done today. So that's it. That's about all I got.